You're listening to the Love Over Addiction podcast. Hey, it's Michelle. How are you all doing today? I'm doing well. I've got a good story for you. So we're going to talk about the importance of asking for what you need. And this is one of those topics that you can easily go, well, I've got that figured out. I don't really need to hear about that anymore. Or I always ask for what I need. I just don't get it. And that's okay if that's how you're feeling. But if you are tempted to skip this week's podcast, I would ask you to reconsider. Just hear me out. Let me make my case, because I want to make sure that if you're asking for what you need and you're not receiving it, I want to double check that you're asking in the right way. And then also, if you feel like you're asking for what you need and maybe you're not receiving it, that you're not holding on to that resentment. Or maybe you're asking for what you need and it's not a realistic ask. Like, what you need is not something that your partner can give you at this season of their life. So we're going to cover it all today. We're going to go into how to get what you need in your life. And if your partner can't give it to you, then maybe you can give it to yourself. Or if it's something that you need from a spouse, something that's, romantic or involves feeling loved, then maybe it's time we take a look at the fact that it might be time to consider leaving. I know that was scary what I just said. I totally get it. And I know that even when somebody begins to talk about the idea of leaving your relationship, it can cause great feelings of anxiety. So we're going to go slow, and I'm going to walk you through everything, and I'm going to remind you that I am right here with you. I left, and I survived, and actually have the life that I always kind of wanted, and felt like deep down maybe I didn't deserve. And still sometimes to this day, I look around and think, I can't believe I'm here. And of course, I'm not saying that as like a braggy way, because heck, my life is far from perfect, y'all. Just come spend an afternoon with me and you will see. I'm not posting pictures on Instagram of anything that you guys would look at and go, oh, that's amazing. That is A, not my style, and B, like I would post a picture of my dirty laundry. That's what I would be inclined to do. So what I am saying though is that there is a wonderful, beautiful future for you. And we just need to figure out what that looks like. And we need to figure out how to develop that. And we need to figure out how to help you take responsibility for owning that future. Because I think one of the biggest mistakes we make, particularly if you are a woman, is that for some reason, we grew up thinking this distorted belief that we were waiting for people to make us happy, or to repay us for all of the favors and all of the care and thoughtfulness that we have provided other people all our lives. I mean, we are caretakers. That's one of our gifts and also one of our greatest weaknesses, because it feels good to caretake and it feels good to serve others. But sometimes we do it waiting for people to serve us back. And if we have surrounded ourselves with people who are takers, not givers, then we can be waiting for a really long time. And while we're waiting for people to help us make our lives better, we start to worry and panic that it will never happen. We start to get angry and resentful that people aren't giving us what we are giving them. And we start questioning everything. And then we handle those feelings inappropriately and immaturely. So we act out, whether it's silent treatments or trying to control by nagging or, having temper tantrums and meltdowns, trying to get our point across. And instead of growing up into mature, responsible adults, we are stuck with a level of immaturity that is not helping create that future that we want. And it's a weird dynamic, particularly when you love someone struggling with addiction, because they too are dealing with issues of immaturity. I know I've said this before. I've certainly said it in the programs in great detail, but when an addict or alcoholic starts their addiction, so the first drink they have or the first drug they have, there is, again, you can research this more. I'm not going to go into great detail, but there is some science behind what I'm saying. And again, I'm just going to put out a disclaimer. I am not a scientist. I am not a therapist. So please, please, please double, triple check what I am saying to you. But I have read in many, many articles in scientific journals that when an addict begins their addiction, that at whatever age they are is the age that they're stuck at until they get sober. So if the person you love started drinking or using drugs at the age of 19, then their maturity level is stuck at the age of 19. That's why sometimes when you love them and you're fighting with them or you see them behaving in a certain way and you're like, I feel like I'm married to a teenager or a child, it's because you are in a way. And the funny thing is that can actually happen to us too. When we start a relationship with that alcoholic or substance abuser, our maturity often gets stunted. Or when we start developing, severe behaviors of codependency, our maturity stunts. Why? Because all of our attention stops focusing on us and begins focusing outward. So we don't have a lot of personal growth because we're so busy trying to help everybody else around us grow into the people that we think they should become, right? And it's kind of funny because all of that extra effort that we're placing and giving and providing is actually incredibly harmful and destructive to ourselves. And so our emotional growth gets stunted. And so when I left my ex-husband, I discovered very, very quickly that I had a ton of work to do. I actually discovered that I had a ton of work to do the minute that I decided to leave. And then I spent the next year while I was still living with him, planning on leaving, literally planning, but also doing a tremendous amount of personal growth that stopped when I was around the age of 15. I had about over 7 years, way more than 7 years. Anyways, I'm not good at math, you guys, but whatever. I had a lot of years to make up for. So that is why we are sort of stunted in the area of asking for what we need, asking for what we want, because we don't feel like we deserve it. And because we have this self-destructive pattern of providing what other people want. We think we know what they want from us. And so we are subservient and we provide it to them. And then we wait and we wait and we wait for it to be reciprocated. And it never is, or it's very seldom reciprocated. And so today we're going to go over how do you ask for what you want? And I've got a story for you that will help illustrate it because I love stories. I learn through stories. That's why I love documentaries so much. And my kids learn through stories. And I've always hated, this is total side tangent. My my kids have always watched YouTube, and I hated YouTube because I felt like, weird, like I can't control it. But my kids are discovering all these history channels on YouTube. And it has been so helpful for me as a mom to observe them learning through stories. So now we watch documentaries together, anything that has a story. And I actually thought of you guys because I'm like, I bet this is really helpful for you all to hear examples, not just this hypothetical self-help talk. So I'm going to tell you a story about a friend, and then I'm going to tell you a story about me. So I have a really good friend who is married, very happily married, and he's a great man. No addiction issues there. But my friend grew up with a very domineering father. He still is. He's the leader of the family. He prides himself on sharing his opinion even when not asked. He can be quite controlling. He's very well known in, our little town. And he's a lovely man, but he scares me, to be honest with you. Every time I see him, I kind of wave this nervous wave and try to make as much small talk as quick as possible and then move on. He's intimidating. And so I can't even imagine, well, I can because I grew up with a very intimidating father, but I can't, this man seems even more intimidating than my father. And so I can't imagine what it's like growing up and being her. And so she kind of took this little behavior of being quiet and being small and being subservient and never really speaking up. That whole dynamic that she grew up with in her childhood, she took it into her marriage. And so it left her husband kind of, who is not at all, this, strong, big presence of a personality, but he sort of had to guess what she wanted and what she liked because she wasn't speaking up. And he's like, well, okay, if you're not going to say anything, I guess I'll just decide for both of us. So they were redoing this home renovation. And he was making all of the decisions. He was picking out the tiles, and he was designing the area, and he was really picking out the grill and the gazebo area and all of this. And we go to lunch one day and she says, what do you think about this tile? And for those of you that do not know, I am absolutely obsessed with interior design. If I could do this all over again, I would definitely do what I'm doing, but I would also be an interior designer. I love it. And I think I'd be really good at it, but I also think every woman thinks that they're really good at it. So I don't know if I'm actually really good at it or not, but I like to believe I am. That, and then a dancer. I would love to be a dancer. Obviously not a pole dancer or anything like that, like a professional dancer, I don't know what kind of anyways, whatever, on a Britney Spears video. Wouldn't that be funny? Anyways, I digress. Thank you for bearing with me through my ADHD. So let's get back on track. So she goes to lunch with me. She says, what do you think about this tile? And I said, well, I think it's great. A lot of people use it, but it tends to stain. So if leaves or debris get on it, it actually leaves a mark. It's quite hard to get out. You have to pressure wash it. It's very porous type of stone. And she said, okay. She said, would you mind offering some other suggestions? And I said, of course. Are you kidding? I am an interior designer in my secret fantasy life. Of course I will provide you with more options. So we go home and I start thinking about different tiles. And I get back to her and say, I think I have a couple options for you. And she said, no, he's already going with this one. He's made up his mind. And I kind of was taken aback. And because this woman is in her 50s and I love her. And she is super brilliant, accomplished, smart woman. And I said, what do you mean he already chose? Didn't you tell him that you were thinking about other options? No. Well, why didn't you tell him? Well, I didn't want to hurt his feelings. I thought that maybe I would be, I didn't want him to, be worried that I was not confident in his decisions. I said, you're talking about tiles here. I mean, like, it's not the end of the world. Really? So you're going to live with this tile. So this was I think this was like a year ago or several months ago, whatever. I'm also bad with time. And the other day I called her. I said, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I'm on my hands and knees scrubbing the tile because it's getting stained with leaves. And of course, I am a good friend, y'all. So I did not say anything. I bit my tongue and did not say, I told you so. But it just struck me to the core that this well-accomplished, beautiful woman who many men would be so happy to be and so grateful to be married to, wouldn't even speak up about, share her opinion about tile. And this is what I'm talking about, asking for what you need. If you are, can you relate to my friend? And I bet some of us can, because here's the deal. I don't judge her because you know what? I was her when I was married to a man suffering from addiction. I did have an incredibly hard time. I don't know why now, looking back, that I kept such a quiet mouth over asking for what I wanted and needed. I was so scared he was going to leave me. I was so scared that he would choose drugs and alcohol and other women over me, that ruffling any kind of feathers at all made me afraid for my future, thinking that it was going to blow up and I would be left alone and broke and friendless and homeless and all of the above. And guess what? All of that happened. I was right. It came true. But speaking up was the best thing I did, and blowing it all up was the best thing that ever happened to me. Now, I'm not suggesting that when you speak up, everything blows up. I'm saying it is a reality. It is a justified fear, and it might happen. And if it does, guess what? You will survive. You will be better than okay. You will be happy. You will get that future that you want. It is a new beginning and a new opportunity because you are a wiser person to recreate your life again. But if it doesn't, and you ask for what you want, you might just get it. You might just be married or dating or with somebody that hears you and sees you and says, that's important to me. I respect your opinion enough to consider that, and let's talk about this together. Because that's the type of man my friend is married to. I guarantee it. She just needs to learn how to break this negative pattern of her childhood of being meek and quiet and shy and not thinking that her feelings or desires or thoughts are good, because that's the lie that she was told when she was younger. And we're all grown-ups now. And we need to stop listening to those messages that occurred as children. Because we were only children for what? 24 years? 18 years? Why are we letting that dictate the rest of our lives? It shouldn't be. And if it is, then we need to work on that. There's where the work lies. Now, for those of you that are sitting there saying to me, and I know I hear you because I know you so well, you are all sitting there, or some of you are saying, okay, Michelle, so you're telling me that I can go to my spouse or my partner and say, listen, it really upsets me that you're drinking too much. Would you mind considering stopping? And then they're going to sit there and go, well, I value your opinion and you are such a wise woman. Of course I will consider. And just hand me the card keys and I'll just go to an AA meeting right now. I get it. You guys, I know that that's an unrealistic expectation here. I get it. I really do. And so that is actually why we need to sit there and say, ask ourselves, what do we want? What do we need? And then follow up with the question, make a list, and then follow up with the question, can my partner or spouse give that to me? Or is this something that I can fulfill on my own? And here's the thing. This is where I say these loving truths that are going to sting, and you're not going to probably want to listen to another podcast because you're going to be like, that sucks, Michelle, and I don't want to hear that, and you suck, and blah, 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 blah. But I got to say it anyways because I needed someone to say this to me when I was in your shoes and nobody did, and it did me a disservice. Here's the deal, guys. The person that you love, that you are choosing to love, that you are choosing to stay with, has very, very limited capabilities of giving you what you want or what you need because of their addiction. So if you're sitting here comparing your relationship to your neighbor's relationship or your best friend's relationship or some relationship on television or TV, and you're sitting here saying, well, it looks like he's giving her everything she wants, or she's giving her everything she wants, or whatever dynamic you have going on in your home. Yeah, that might actually be the truth for them, but it's not your truth because they're not married to somebody suffering from addiction. They're not choosing to stay with somebody who has addictive tendencies. You are. If you are choosing to stay, then you got to recognize the whole truth. This is part of what I was talking about earlier about recognizing your reality, accepting that, becoming a mature human being and saying, I am choosing to stay. Therefore, I am with somebody who is struggling with an incredibly difficult battle and struggle of their own, who is dealing with mental illness, who is fighting for their life or maybe giving up on their life. And their priority is not going to be me right now. Their priorities are not with how to better our marriage. Because if they were, they would be getting sober. They would stop the drinking and stop the drug use and stop the running away and start facing the music, start contributing equally in all areas most of the time. They would be going to therapy with you and being honest with the therapist. They would be coming home after work every time. When you asked them where they were, they wouldn't be telling you you're crazy or you're a nag or you're controlling. They would be telling you where they are all the time because they have nothing to hide. When you went out to a party or you celebrated a holiday, you would not have to worry about their drinking or drug use. But this is your reality right now, for now, during this season in your life. And so asking for what you want concerning your partner might not come true. And therefore, it is your responsibility to adjust your expectations. You can either make peace with the fact that you're choosing to stay, that you are in this relationship for now, and you need to make peace with the fact that they probably are not going to meet your needs, okay? Or you can choose to say, you know what? Screw that. I'm going to meet my needs with somebody else. Now, I'm not suggesting you, of course, have an affair. That's not something that we want to consciously choose to do because we have more integrity. Not that there's a judgment if you've done that, because I understand the temptation and the desire. I really, truly understand that. And I know how lonely it can feel in a relationship. So there's zero judgment for me, but it's not something I certainly want to encourage. If we're going to do this, we need to do it the right way, which is stop with the expectations, the unrealistic expectations of getting your needs met from somebody who's sick. Start looking at yourself for meeting your own expectations and make the tough call whether you should leave or stay. And then do your work. Work on yourself. Remember, we talked about how codependency and loving someone with addiction stunts your mental growth. We need to get you chronologically to your realistic age of maturity. And in order to do that, we definitely need to take inventory and say, okay, where are the areas that I'm still behaving immaturely in my life? And then once you do your work on yourself, it's quite interesting because the person shows up who you are meant to be with. It's exactly what happened to me. And then all of a sudden, you're looking at your life partner and you're thinking, I can truly see you and appreciate you and value you for who you are because I am healthy. It's like the scales have been removed from your eyes and you can see so clearly. The fog is lifted. And somebody, honestly, who I never would have considered before when I was unhealthy, now looks so attractive and appealing because I'm showing up full and wholeheartedly and feeling like a deserving woman, if that makes sense. So that's kind of the order that it should happen. It's not always the order it does happen. But if you are choosing to stay, there's no judgment on that either. But you're going to drive yourself nuts and go batty if you keep looking to somebody to fill your cup who doesn't have a pitcher. Like they cannot fill your cup. You have got to fill it on your own if you want to be happy and stay in this relationship. And truthfully, guys, here's the great news if you decide to stay. Filling up your own cup is a lifelong skill that you should acquire whether you stay or leave. So work on filling up your own cup now. Master that skill. Master the detachment and not relying on somebody else to do things for you that you should probably learn to do on your own. And then if you, and while you're deciding to stay, and then if you decide to leave, you've done quite a bit of the work already. Like that's the beautiful thing is that if you've done the programs, you've learned about boundaries, you've learned about self-love, you've learned about discovering your dreams, you've learned about how to be responsible for your own happiness. You've learned about why it is that you got into this self-destructive relationship to begin with, so you don't recreate another pattern like that. You can identify a healthy, strong partner. You've learned all these tools because you're doing the work while you're with them. And so at any point in time that you decide to leave, you have the freedom to do that. You don't feel so stuck or so trapped or like you have to put up with this the rest of your life. You can look at your partner from across the room and say, yeah, I'm choosing to be here right now today, but I can change my mind at any point in time. And I know that I will be okay alone. I know that things will work out for my benefit if I choose to leave tomorrow. That's the freedom. That's the beauty. And you don't have to leave in order to start the work. That's the best thing. That's the whole reason. Well, it's one of the major reasons I created this community was because I don't think that message is getting across. Like it's not being taught that you have to leave or stay and make that decision right now, or that it's all of the addict's fault. And if they just got sober, it would get better. Those are lies. Or that we're not in control and what is that? We admit our lives are unmanageable or whatever I don't know what that slogan is, but it's not true. It's not true. Our lives are manageable. We are not powerless over addiction. That is not true. There are so many things that we can do that have power over addiction. We are not helpless victims and martyrs with this sad life that just needs to continue until somebody decides to get better. No. We have the power within ourselves. Nothing outside of ourselves needs to change in order for us to get the life that we want to live, that we deserve to have. We just need to be willing to stop the nonsense of looking outside of ourselves or wishing things were different and start saying, right, okay, I am being called to work here and I'm going to do the work and I'm going to dedicate it. That's why I say in the programs, you have to do 15 minutes of those programs every day. You should dedicate that time. Play it in your car, play it for your kids, give it to your extended family members. I don't care, but commit to the work because you are deserving of that work. Do not give up, even when it gets hard. I'm doing a codependency thing right now, reading a bunch of codependency books. It sucks. It's so hard. I hate it. I thought I was fine in codependency. I'm not. I still have some growth to do, guys. And I'm journaling and I'm writing and I'm opening up old scars and wounds and childhood memories. And yuck. Who wants to go there? Nobody. That's why we don't. That's why we avoid it. But do you know how much healing I'm receiving from just dedicating 15 minutes a day to going there? I'm having mega on aha moments where I'm like, oh, okay, that is why I've done that all my life. And that makes sense to me. And then I can have the conversations that I need to have with the people who've hurt me and understand deeper, on a deeper level, what's going on. And I forgive and I move on. You know, that's the work. Life is supposed to be wonderful, but we have to put the investment in. It doesn't just come. It does. I don't want to say I don't want to be, you're going to be like, Michelle, this is the most depressing podcast you've ever done. I don't want to leave you with that. I just want to say, look, there's good things that will come out. The benefits will be phenomenal. The rewards, the ROI will be huge if you just make the initial investment on a daily basis. Okay, so that's it. Now, I'm going to leave you with a story, a personal story for me of, so yesterday I was in the hospital. I'm fine, totally fine. I went to the emergency room because I was having shortness of breath for 4 days. My heart was really, really hurting. I was getting sweaty. I thought there was pain going down my arm. I thought I was having a heart attack. And I let it go for 4 days because I'm a woman and I'm like, it's going to cost a fortune to go to the ER. I don't know if, we don't want to pay for that. Plus it's probably indigestion, right? Or something silly like that. But after I was getting my kids ready in the morning, I kept going up and down the stairs. And every time I went up and down the stairs, I was like, I could not breathe. I had to sit down on a chair. So I looked at Brian and I was like, I think we need to go to the ER. I think and I couldn't finish my sentences without taking a breath in the middle of them. Like when I was reading my son a story at night, I couldn't finish the sentence. So that was kind of weird. Anyways, I am fine. Long story short, went there, got a bunch of tests. I'm good. I don't know what it is. I don't know what's going on. My heart still hurts a little bit, but as you can tell, my breath is back. So, weird fluke. But anyways, we're going home. I've been in the hospital all day. Brian has been absolutely lovely, sitting by my side, talking to the doctors, taking notes while we talk on his app, trying to tell me stories so that I'll be entertained. I'm even so impressed that the hospital even allows somebody to come with and sit with me because of COVID. But, I got a COVID test too, and it came back negative. Yay. So anyways, and I felt terrible. That's the other reason. I didn't want to take up a spot in a hospital when people really had real problems going on. So I felt very guilty about that. Regardless, we get in the car after a very long day and we haven't eaten, and it's 2:00 in the afternoon or 3:00 in the afternoon. And he turns to me, and says, would you like something to eat? And I said, yes, I would. And then I thought about it and I was like, oh my gosh, I just want to go home. I feel gross. I want to take a nice shower. I want to wash my hands again. I want to lay in bed. I'm exhausted. I've had an EKG, an MRI, all these other things. I just want to go lay down in bed. And he goes, okay, great. I'm going to take us to this restaurant. And It's kind of like one of those restaurants where you have to park and then you stand in line and then it's like a buffet type of situation, but it's supposed to be healthy for you. And you tell them what you want and then you get it to go. And the last thing I wanted to do was wait in the car because I live in Florida and I would die of heat stroke because it's like 1,000 degrees here right now. Or I didn't want to go wait in line. Like, first of all, I looked ridiculous because I had worn my like semi pajamas to the hospital because I knew I'd be there for a while. And I didn't want to wait in the pajamas at my local restaurant. I was just too tired. So, but I didn't want to, I thought my old codependent self was like, oh, but I can tell he really wants to go here. This is his favorite restaurant. And he's been waiting with me all day. He's been this super rock star hero. He's been absolutely perfect. And I shouldn't complain. I shouldn't ask. And then I was like, no. Wait. You love him and he loves you and you're secure in that love. And also, Michelle, you've had a really stressful day. If you want to go lay down and you don't want to wait 30 minutes to do that, then just ask. When you ask, be polite. This is the conversation I'm having with myself. Lots of self-talk going on here quietly. When you ask, be polite, be respectful, but speak up. And so I turned to him as we're pulling out of the hospital parking lot. And I said, I'm sorry. I'm just really, really exhausted. And what I need right now is to please lay down. Would you mind dropping me off at home before you go to the restaurant? And he was like, oh, yeah, of course, babe. Sure. No problem. Do you want me to get you anything while I'm there? And I just took a big sigh of relief. Because I was like, that's not hard. I built it up to be something. I had this whole like conversation with myself about like going back and forth. It's not as hard as I thought it would be, number one. And then my sigh of relief was also because I'm with a man who really respects me. And that would not have happened in my first marriage. In my first marriage, I would have said anything and I would have gone and I would have sat in the car and I would have been so upset and hurt. And I would have thought he doesn't love me and he doesn't care about me because he's only thinking about himself. Or to be honest with you, in my first marriage, I don't think he would have come or stayed there the entire time or something. But also I thought, I've done well the second time around. I've identified a man successfully who cares enough about me to, of course, no big deal, and go 30 minutes out of his way to drop me off at home. So, and he set me up and he said, is there anything I can get you before I go? And he was making sure that I was content and I was happy and I had what I needed. So, do you see the difference? Do you see the contrast here? That it's partly our responsibility to say what we want, what we need, to ask for that. And then it's also a great way to tell, are our expectations correct? If I had done that, asked for that in my first marriage, it wouldn't have worked out. It wouldn't have had the happy ending. And therefore, I need to adjust my expectations. In the second marriage, it did. And so I hope that that's just a really helpful example that you can, use or think about as far as what are your needs and what are your wants. And some of them you'll be able to make a list of today. And some of them will just happen organically throughout the week. Identify those. Try it out. Ask for what you need. Try it. It might not happen, but at least you're getting in a good practice. At least you're practicing what you know you need to do and what you need to get good at. And worst case scenario, they look at you and go, no, I'm going anyways. And I really want to go. And, I'm going to stop by. It'll be super fast. And then guess what? You get to sit there and go, okay, he chose to go to the restaurant anyways. Am I willing to settle for that? Is that okay with me? How do I feel about that? And then you can make future decisions having information, knowing the truth, being honest about your real situation. It's empowering. It's liberating. It's freeing. It's also scary as crap because we don't want to know sometimes the truth. We don't want to be let down or hurt. But guys, this is part of our responsibility of healing. And I know and believe wholeheartedly that you can do this and get really good at it with practice. You have to practice. You have to promise me that you are going to keep trying no matter how many times you fail, because, oh my gosh, I failed 1,001 times. And I still do. And that's okay because we forgive ourselves and we move forward. And every step forward is significant improvement. And I want to recognize you and I want to honor you and I want to say, look at you. You made it to the end of this super long podcast. You're still listening, which means you, in your heart, you are motivated and you desire more and you are dedicated. Just listening to this means you're doing work. So congratulate yourself. Literally say, good job. I'm trying. I get an A+ for that. If I could give you a sticker, I would. You passed a test and I'd hang it on the fridge. I'd give you a high five. I'd say congratulations because you're willing to do the work. And if you're willing to do the work, your life will get better. I promise. I love you. And I will talk to you next week.
This podcast is created for your support, encouragement, and entertainment with Michelle's personal thoughts and beliefs. From one woman to another, bonded together by the fact we love someone suffering from addiction. This is not intended as a substitute for therapy or advice from a professional.